Call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all. Aho. The flag of the state of Mexico, the civil friendship among the United Cultures.
They have it memorized, yeah.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular council meeting for November 6th, 2019.
No sound back
Can't
here.
hear you.
We'll go through this again.
Is it working now?
No.
How about now?
Better.
Welcome to the regular council meeting for November 6th, 2019. Following the Pledge of Allegiance, the first item is approval of the agenda. Council, I don't have any changes to make to it. Mr. Mayor, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve this evening's agenda.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye. We still can't hear you.
Before we get started, I wanted to read our these new guidelines we've been working off of for the benefit of the public that haven't been here maybe before. At the request of the public, town staff, and members of the governing body, in order to expedite business and conduct a more efficient, orderly meeting, the guidelines listed below will be followed at Edgewood Town Council meetings. Guidelines for the public. The public is asked to remain silent throughout the meeting so all attendees can hear what is being said. The public will be heard from only at public comment, which is limited to 2 minutes per individual. If a member of the governing body wishes to hear from a member of the public seated in the audience, the mayor will ask the remainder of the governing body whether they wish to hear from the individual. If there is an objection, a member of the public will not be heard from. The public is encouraged to contact members of the governing body prior to the meeting to express their opinions and concerns, which will enable the governing body to achieve its purposes and expedite business. Cursing, name-calling, and any type of verbal abuse will not be tolerated. If recording devices used by the public are interfering with the quality of the sound of the meeting, those devices will be required to be turned off. And the guidelines for the governing body. The presiding officer, mayor or mayor pro tem, controls access to the floor. It is out of order to speak unless granted the floor except for point of order or certain privileged motions. For each action item on the agenda, the first utterance from a counselor will be the statement of a motion, enabling the discussion to stay focused on the action to be decided. There is no need to obtain the floor to second the motion. When a motion that is in order has been moved and seconded, the chair formally places the question before the assembly by stating the question. The chair states the exact motion and indicates that it is open to debate. Traditionally, the person making the motion initiates discussion debate on the matter at hand. Debate discussion must be confined to the question before the body. All debate must be addressed to the presiding officer and not to the members. Debate must be confined to the question before the body. One member should not interrogate another member or person speaking from the public except through the chair. The presiding officer or the body may set reasonable time limits in debate. Time may be extended or limited upon a motion of the body. It is the right of every member who notices a breach of the rules to insist on their enforcement, thereby calling upon the chair for a ruling and enforcement. So, with that said, we can then proceed into the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion on this one.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to approve tonight's consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That brings us then to discussion items. And the first item on the agenda tonight is an update on the North Central Regional Transit District NCRTD public input meeting on how the NCTRD can better serve the greater Edgewood area and the role that Southwest Planning and Marketing will play in collecting that feedback. Chris Cordova from Southwest Planning and Marketing is here. Chris, come on up.
Thank you. Mayor, council members, let me introduce what I'm doing here. I'm on contract with KFH Group, which is a transportation planner. Let me introduce my colleagues here. We've got Mr. Ken Poser here from KFH Group, who's a fine transportation planner.
He's gonna turn it up.
Check. And Mr. Jim Nagel right there, who is the PIO for the North Central Regional Transit District. And our role here is to get feedback. Rather than make a presentation, I'm here to listen to what people have to say about what we can do with the Blue Bus, how it can be improved, what are some of the things they're doing that are, try that one. There we go. Is that better?
Yes.
Can I just change these? There we go. Much better. So today we had a very robust conversation with the seniors and several people that went down to a 2:00 meeting we had at the senior center with regard to what they would like to see the Blue Bus do. Routes for Edgewood area. Currently, it's basically a commuter route to Santa Fe each way. Now NCRTD is they cover a 4-county area. There is some means of adjusting that or meeting needs, but all I really needed to know today was what are some of the needs people have here, and I'd like to hear from the counselors as well as you've heard from your constituents. What are some of the transportation needs that maybe the Blue Bus could serve? Is there anyone that would like to share? Yes?
I know at one time we had a midday bus and it was canceled because of poor ridership. But the other part of that is I don't feel like people were really maybe aware that it was available. So, do you think there's a possibility to try another midday bus? Or?
Well, is that something you think we need here, Councilor Abraham?
I think, I would ride, I don't want to go up there first thing in the morning and have to stay all day. But I would like to maybe go up and, stay for half a day and come back. Or go up for lunch and then come back.
Up to Santa Fe?
Yes.
We did get that from the seniors, so that's something that will be in the notes. And I'm not here to say what's possible or not possible. What I would like to say is that I was involved 5 years ago in the last 5-year update, and the staff at NCRTD and Ken's people put together a lot of recommendations that came out of these meetings, and they did a very good job of implementing many of them. It's a much more robust transportation system than it was, and we're hoping that with the feedback we get here. So I'm not here to say what they can and can't do. I just need to know what it is you'd like them to do, where you feel like there's demand. Is there anyone else?
Well, I want to say, I spent the afternoon and the second meeting here with Chris and the NCRT members, and I think we heard a lot about wanting transportation from here to the Albuquerque area. So I think you've heard, from a lot of people who had a lot of good input in a number of different permutations and different routes. One thing I do want to mention, Chris brought these pamphlets down with him. There's a system map for NCRTD and the Edgewood commuter trip that goes up to Santa Fe Monday through Friday. And I left the extras on the table in the hallway. So pick one up if you're interested.
Let me also add that if any of the people in the audience want to add something that they would like to see the Blue Bus provide service to, or if there's something you feel like they're doing quite well, on the ncrtd.com website, it's what is it? Ride the Blue Bus.
RideTheBlueBus.com.
RideTheBlueBus.com or ncrtd.org. Yeah. Now go to the website and you just type in Ride the Blue Bus. It'll come up at the bottom. There's a link where you can type all the input that you would like to provide. So we want to know. We want to make sure we don't want to hear. Everyone has an opportunity to provide input. So don't say, "Oh hell, I missed the meeting. I couldn't do that." There is an opportunity, and You're always welcome to get on our Facebook at NCRTV and post some notes as well. We're going to compile all of that, and when it comes time for planning, the planners will have all that information so they'll know what they can do.
Members of the public, if you want to address something to Mr. Corbin while he's here, go ahead.
Thank you. Is there anybody out here that'd like to make any comments about the Blue Bus service? Yes, sir?
I've actually been a part, I don't know how many people have.
Come up to the microphone, sir. Come up to the microphone.
My name is Jimmy J. Howdy. I would just like to comment, I have used the Blue Bus. I don't know how many people have actually taken the ride on it, but it was wonderful. I was actually broke down. I was called for jury duty out in Santa Fe, and the Blue Bus actually had taken me and saved us, and saved my wife a trip from having to get me. But yes, one thing that was crucial was I had to stay there the whole day. I burned some time and stuff, but it was awesome. So thank you for your services.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We've got nothing but good compliments about the service that's currently available, and that's good news. Would there be anybody else that would like to add something or have some transportation needs that the Blue Bus may be able to assist with? Mayor?
Seeing none, I guess that's it.
I think we heard what people want. Thank you.
Mayor, I just do have a comment for the speaker, if that's okay. All right. I just wanted to thank you for coming out here and fostering input and asking for that input and listening. So thank you.
Thank you. I would like to make one off-the-cuff comment. I just heard from 3 people, including your librarian, that they all had jury duty, so there must be something about that.
Thank you, Mr. Corbin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is matters from Moriarty Edgewood School District, Teresa Salazar.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. So I just have a couple of things that I want to share. The first thing is something that's important to all of us, and that is the census that's coming up. So that's something that we all need to be discussing, talking about to our neighbors, anyone that we see, and you're going to be hearing lots about it. The census data is used in many, many different ways. There's a distribution of more than $675 billion across the nation based on census data. This data is from state to local government, redistricting of your state legislators, the forecast of transportation needs, talking about that right now, determining eligibility for housing assistance or rehabilitation, assistance for federal, tribal, state, and local government in planning and implementation, and designing facilities for people with disabilities, elderly, and children. Through the school district, we get over $1 million, closer to $2 million a year in federal funds that is based on census data, and that's just a small part that is actually coming in yearly. If we do not count every single child, every single person in our school district, we don't get the funds that we need for our students. Same way with any kind of grants or funds that are done across our district and in our communities. That is the data that they use to decide where you're at on that. So I really want to emphasize how important it is. The important dates that are going to be coming up is March 12th is when that'll start through July. That they'll be getting information, and the actual count date is April 1st. So where people are living on April 1st, who's living in the home. They are basing it on addresses, and they're going to be sending postcards out to that address, and that code is going to be to that address, so that's how they're going to track it. It is confidential, and it's required confidential by law. So people don't need to worry about their information getting out or that it's going to be used for inappropriate reasons. So it is a confidential thing. And there's only 9 questions. So it's something that'll be pretty quick. We're looking at different things that we can do with us having outreach to students and parents, getting curriculum out to students and getting them to understand how we use the census data. The Census Department is just not something that is once every 10 years they have a department that works on this. It's constantly, because data and information is drawn from that, so it's very important. So I just want to get that on everybody's list of things to be looking for. Something that's a lot closer to home is, as most of you know, last year during legislative session, money was set aside specifically for K-5 plus and extended learning. It was a very quick turnaround with it being a 60-day session. There's a lot of unknowns, so as a district, we chose not to participate in any of those programs because no one was really sure how that funding was going to shake out, if there was going to be enough. Our budget's tight enough, as everyone knows, that if there was any kind of little things that didn't work out, we didn't have a budget to help with that. So as far as K through 12 students, what we're looking at, and we're reaching out to our staff, really educating them what that looks like, is the extended learning. So I just want to share with you a little bit very quickly of what that would look like for what the legislative requirements are. So it's a minimum of 190 instructional days per school year, with at least 5.5 hours for our K through 6 and 6 hours for our 7th through 12th grade students. They have made that where it's a mandatory 190 days for teachers and adding 10 days of instructional days to the students. So what that would look like in our school year is right now we have 172 instructional days. Our students would go 182, and our teachers would just add 6. Their contract's 184 to 190, so it'd be 6 days. Really and truly, no one's going to notice. Once you do the calendar out, the calendar that we have this year, it would look a lot like that. Would be starting the first full week of August and ending before Memorial Day. Having the same 2 weeks at Christmas, having a fall break, having all the Monday holidays, and having spring break. But it's adding the 10 days to the students. One of the great things about this program is that it would be after-school opportunities, academic and extracurricular for students, and there would be funding associated with that. So that would really help us as a district be able to have those after-school programs. And then a minimum of 80 non-instructional hours per school year of professional development for teachers. So really keeping tracks to make sure that every single teacher had 80 instructional days. So that is what we're looking at. There's all the little things of, that we need to take into consideration and that we're looking at, which would be 2-a-day football practice. How's that going to work? Because that's important. If you don't think it is, you just ask somebody that has a football player or a coach. Fairs. We've got lots of fairs in our communities and people that participate with that. So those are all kind of the things that we're looking at as we move forward with this. But just to kind of get that out there, we're having those conversations with teachers. We actually are having our teachers provide us with questions that they have. We're going to produce a Q&A page of questions, answers, so that everybody has the same information, and we'll be getting that out. But just to kind of give you a heads up on that. Our kiddos at Moriarty High School in football and volleyball are doing well. The football is in the first round of the district playoffs, which will, the first game will be Friday night against Kirtland Central. So if you want to bundle up and head to Kirtland Central, we'd love to have you. And then our volleyball girls they won last night, and they will be playing tomorrow night against Milwaukee and in the second round of district play, and then I believe they move to the state tournament if they win that. So we've lost to them the last 2 times, but it's been in 5 matches. So, third time's a charm, so we're feeling good about it. So, CNN courses. Councilperson Holly and I have been working with CNN. You want to share a little bit about where we're at with CNN?
Sure. As we reported before, Ms. Salazar, myself, and First Choice, we're all working together with CNM to try and get some classes out here. And CNM has identified one class that they want to offer. It's labeled HWPS 1005. It's a career exploration in health, wellness, and public safety. And this would be a fully online class. And this is something that would be starting in February, a 12-week class. And then the second class that they have identified to share out here in our area would be a vet tech class. So as we get more details, still don't have everything tied up yet, but we will definitely get flyers out and let you know when they're ready to enroll you.
Right. And so we're also, even with the online classes, the classes will be held at Edgewood Middle School. And if it's online and someone doesn't have access, if there's several people that don't have access to internet or the hardware or computer, we can work and get someone to proctor those and have those opportunities available. So we'll be working on that. The other class that's going to be starting in January is the Mesa Lands, and it's the wind energy technology. This first set of courses is the intro to it, which is a 3-hour credit. And then there is a 1-hour climbing lab that they'll be going to Tucumcari for Friday and Saturday and have to do 3 climbs up that 350-foot tower. So I'm skipping that course. I will not be attending that, thinking I don't want to. So we're very excited about that. There's not adult classes right at this time. We are working with the 2 of the new energy companies, the wind energy companies that are coming in. They're going to be putting in the new phases in the next 18 to 24 months. And we'll be offering adult classes at that time when we get closer to the time so that adults can take those classes. This certification is a 17-credit certification, so a high school student can start it as a junior and be completed with it as a senior and be starting at $20 an hour. They can stay close to home with that, or they can go off and they can get a job anywhere. Mesa Land says that they get calls, on a daily basis to get texts for this, so we're excited about it and opportunities for our kids in our area. And we're also working with Estancia Mountain Air Schools. Torrance County has provided some funding with the trailer and the equipment to have. There's going to be over $150,000 worth of equipment on our site that they can utilize in the hands-on and the lab stuff. So we're excited about it. I think it'll be very good for our area. And that's it. The only other thing is we are working, where's the poor people that are freezing because the crane is coming with a new unit. PO has been put in. So we are going to be replacing one of the units on the top of this building because it went out and it's not salvageable. So that is in progress. Y'all wear my coat. Any questions?
Any questions?
I do. So you mentioned the calendar would probably start around August 1st. Would that be for staff or for students? Because it just seems like students would come quickly.
Yes. So it looks like, and this is just an example. We haven't started our calendar yet, but like teachers would start, I believe August 6th, maybe on a Monday, and the teachers would start and do 3 or 4 days, and then the students would have jump start day like on that Thursday. First day of class on Friday, and then so it would be Friday of that week. So it's from the calendar today. It's I believe 2 or 3 days earlier, maybe 2 days earlier than it was this year. Because I think we started on a Monday this year, and they start on a Thursday.
Okay. And then any news on the election? Charles with his 1 vote, is it final?
It's up to 2. So it's up to, I guess there was some provisional votes, so it's up to 2. And it will be canvassed on the November 13th Torrance County meeting, and then we should be good to go from there. So, and I did find out, just asking, recounts and stuff with the election that close, they have 6 days after the canvass to happen. So we're looking around November 19th. So that's
that was a close one.
It was a very close one. We were very excited about all the interest, and we've never had that many in that small district of votes. So there was over, I think, 300 or 400 votes in that district. So it was they got out and worked for it. So we win from it because that means people are interested in what's happening with the school, and I found me a new committee member. So exactly,
that is a good thing. And then I did attend Parks and Rec committee meeting, the first hour or so of it in October, and I know our director has some thoughts about playground equipment and repairs and maintenance things, and so I think she'll be contacting you. At least that's what she said in the meeting, so I just want to give you a heads up on that.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Next item on the agenda then is public comment. First one signed up is K.R. Scott.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, on behalf of Bill Bryant, the president of our Edgewood Lions Club, which has just recently celebrated its 30th anniversary of service to our Edgewood community. I'm K.R. Scott, a proud member of our Lions Club and an Edgewood resident, and I'm here to tell you that the club has been reviewing different things that are going on in the community, and one thing that caught our attention is the Venus Hill Playground, or the Venus Park Playground area. And we've been talking with Parks and Recreation about different ways that Lions Club may be able to help when it gets time, when the town is committed to the final planning and the construction of the park. The Lions Club would like to definitely be a part of the process of making that park happen for our citizens. And there are many other things that Parks and Rec have in the plans, and we're very excited if we can be able to help with that as well. So in keeping with our motto that we serve, we're glad to be part of the community and work forward to making that park happen as soon as we can. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, can I say something to them? You did a really great job with Celtic Fest, helping out, so thank you
Thank you
for
so
that.
much, ma'am.
We couldn't have done it without you.
We try to do our
That
best.
was a large crowd to control, and you guys did an admirable job.
The yellow vest helps.
Yes.
It does. Thank you much.
Next person signed up is Karen Kaiser.
Good evening. I was really excited to see on tonight's agenda that a relative of Chief Crow's is applying to work for the town. I'm a fan of Chief Crow's. I think he is an amazing leader for our town and a really perfect fit for Edgewood. I don't think we could easily replace him. I hope that you as a governing body will really make it a priority to ensure that compensation for Chief Crow and all of our officers is comparable to the surrounding areas so that we get to keep them, not just their pay, but their benefits and their retirement rules. If we're fortunate enough to have Chief Crow retire from his job with Edgewood, I think that would be a blessing for the town. It led me to read the Edgewood nepotism ordinance for the first time. Just wondering if it presented a conflict, and when I read it, I thought, well, it doesn't. He's not the mayor, he's not the magistrate judge, nor is he a counselor, nor would he be his family member's supervisor. So I thought, good, there's no conflict. In reading that, I became uncomfortable about something I perceived to be a conflict, and I may be mistaken, but I wondered, Mayor Bassett, if you might have appointed your first cousin to the Planning and Zoning Commission when you first took office. I may be mistaken about the family relationship, and I'm a little uncomfortable bringing it up because it's not really my business. And then I thought, actually, it is my business. In the essence of fair play and open disclosure, the nepotism ordinance expressly prohibits that appointment. So perhaps you could explain it to us. Thank you.
Next person up is Cheryl Hubbard.
I'd be glad to answer Karen Kaiser's question. I've been on planning and zoning for 3 years. I was appointed by Brad Hill. When we first started the planning and zoning, we hardly had enough people to show up to run a meeting. And so I've stayed with it for for these years because not many people want to volunteer. Karen has a concern on this. The other thing I just want to address, I keep hearing about how Edgewood is not transparent and people can't find the council members' phone numbers. On the website, I checked our website and every one of your phone numbers and email addresses are on that website. The other thing is, if there's complaints that, the town is not transparent. And I don't know how it can be more transparent when all the agendas, all the meeting minutes, all the audio is on the website and it goes back, quite a few years. So anybody who wants to find out what's going on in the town can certainly go to the website and find out on council meetings along with planning and zoning meetings. And I get kind of distressed at these town meetings. It seems like there's just so many people are into whatever's going on in town for how it profits themselves sometimes. You know, whether we're talking about commercial land and what can go on or can't go on it or whatever. I don't hear too much discussion about the safety of the people and the welfare of the general public, but a lot of concern about or protecting our sewer system. It seems to be that there's a lot of self-interest, and they don't like order in our meetings. I appreciate the order that you've given, John, Mayor Bassett, to the meetings. I think that's helpful.
Is there anybody else who wishes to speak who didn't sign up? Okay, seeing none. We'll move along then to matters from the councilors. Councilor Harville.
Thank you, Mayor. First, just a comment in response to what I just heard about concern of phone numbers. I have not heard that, but I do know that my number is on the website and my email as well. This came up years ago during school closure issue, and one of the things that I did is just read out loud my numbers so that anybody listening or here in the audience, if you want to put it in your phone, I'll read those numbers to you now, or I'll say them out loud. So my home number is 281-2209. And my cell number is 505-459-2356, and you all are welcome to call me and contact me anytime at all. With that being said, I'll go to the comments that I was going to talk about. First of all, I wanted to ask again, as I did last meeting, that the election and the terms of the elections with the new information by the Supreme Court decision on the DAs of how that's unconstitutional. Again, I just feel like it's an ethics issue now that we know that that is probably not the right thing to do to extend our terms past the 4 years that we were voted for. I would like to see that on a future agenda. I did reach out to the Secretary of State's office just to see if I could get further information on it, on opting out, and I have not heard back yet, so we'll see what they have to say. But if you have information later, I'd be glad to hear that too. Last week, I talked about the stark contrast between the water service between Clovis, who has a private partner relationship with EPCOR, the city of Clovis, and then Portales, and my personal experience with doing business there, and all the trouble that was in Portales. Well, not even a couple of weeks after that, we traveled to Roswell, and in a random conversation, the county manager and the CFO started talking to me about the city of Roswell's problems, and apparently they were trying to install new meters so that they could just digitally read the meters, and somehow they messed up the pressure in the whole system. And so all summer long there's been neighborhoods without water, without the right pressure. There's one neighborhood that they were telling me can't even flush their toilets, and this has been for months, and they don't expect it to be finished and completed until December. And so I just thought, wow, that's really awful service. So one more example of why I think a private partner relationship for water is more effective. Then I wanted to thank Councilor Holly for inviting us to the First Choice Farm Project for the locally grown food. I did attend that, and it was really a neat event for that opening. I did talk to Bob DeCluise, the CEO, And he mentioned to me that he would like to bring this similar program to Edgewood. And essentially it's a wellness ecosystem, a community farm with healthy food choices and all of that. I guess you can see it sort of as a farmer's market, but incubated in a way. And so he did mention that to me, but probably off in the future. I know you know more about it, but I just thought that it was a very good thing that First Choice was doing in the South Valley, and that they were already looking ahead to Edgewood. So as potentially doing that here. Well, what else do we have? The election terms. Oh, I did see on the desk here the resolution 2004-07 that I had requested to be on the agenda. I don't think it got on the agenda, but maybe Mayor, you can talk about this later. That's as far as who can add things to the agenda. If it can be one counselor, two, or a quorum. And yeah, that's it. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Councilor Abraham.
I wanted to say thank you, Councilor Hall, for working with NESD to bring some classes here. Anything that we can do is always helpful. I did want to
Speak in the mic.
I did want to talk about a few things. One was, I know in the past we had asked about the traffic counter, and I had received an email from a citizen, and they were questioning, road priorities and all that kind of stuff. And I know at one point, one of the conditions of the road priority list was the traffic counter. Has that been repaired? Or,
No. No, in fact, it's unrepairable.
okay. I would like to suggest that we maybe look into purchasing one, since that is a requirement of our road priority list. I think it's really important we have one. The other thing she was a little concerned about was speed limits. I know in the past we have done our own traffic study with that and been able to adjust some of the local speed limits. And so I think that would be an important thing for us to do. The other question I had was about town hall. I know we had discussed getting it listed, and I just wanted to see if there's any update on that. Have you guys interviewed? Okay. All right, thank you. And then I also want to talk about the EPCOR water takeover. I think, we've looked at the condemnation process, and it doesn't seem to be a very popular idea. I thought maybe we could look into negotiations with EPCOR and a PPA to improve water quality. That seems to be everyone's biggest concern, is water quality. And so I just wanted to see if maybe that's an option we could seriously consider and bring forth to this board. And then my last question is the wastewater treatment plant. I'm a little concerned as what's happening with that. I know our operator is gone. Have you guys have any ideas?
Come into it.
Okay. And then I know one of the requirements is to have a certified operator there, so I'm just a little bit concerned about that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilor Edgewood.
Well, I don't have a whole lot this evening. I've kind of been out of pocket for a little while, as some of you on the board here are aware. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend a couple of meetings last week, but I was able to attend the tail end of the New Mexico Technology and Education Conference. At that conference, I found out some very interesting things that affect us here. One of those things, and this is in part because I sit on a statewide board that governs the state of New Mexico's fiber optic educational network. Due to some things that you may or may not have seen in the news, there have been several major breaches of computer systems. I'm not going to go into exactly what that was or how that worked, but the response from all of the CIOs of all of the major educational institutions in the state, as well as K-12, has been overwhelming. There is a move to create, in very short order, a statewide rapid response IT remediation team, which will be available to state, county, and municipal governments, as well as all of the institutions of the state, should, God forbid, we get hacked. One of the biggest problems was that the remediation of several of these incidents took an inordinately long period of time, disrupting operations and processes that govern how students register, grades, all sorts of things in educational institutions that happen on a regular daily basis. And as the staff here knows, should something like that be disrupted in our organization, it would cripple us. I'm very happy to let everyone know that I intend on being a part of this rapid response team, and that I've been working with all of the partners to lobby the state legislature for the funds that are needed for some of the kinds of remediations. And just to give you an idea of some of the numbers, in order to beef up the state's fiber optic network and bring things to locations in rural areas across the state, the current guesstimate is about $500 million. The cost of one of the remediations at one of the institutions was $1 million and counting. And that is time, data loss, productivity loss, full-time employees focused on the problem. So as you can see, there's a lot of money involved in building what we need in the state to support both education, state and local governments, as well as to ensure that it's secure. And I just wanted to let everyone know that that's what I've been involved in.
Sir? Councilor Holly.
Excuse me, having cold problems tonight. Excuse me. In regard to contact information for the counselors, in addition to our contact information on the website, we do have business cards out here on the counters, and not only for the governing body, but also for staff. So that might be another help to you. You also heard tonight, I've been working with NCRTD to expand services down here. My work with CNN to try and get some more educational opportunities out here to our community. And then on Wednesday, October 23rd, I spoke at the county's ribbon cutting for the remodel over at the senior center. So I think anytime, any of these organizations are putting some money and effort into us down here in southern Santa Fe County, I think it's something to celebrate. So that's where I've been putting my time. That's it.
Thank you, Councilor. So, what I've got is several things. First, the NCRTD, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Yes, I am. This silly computer, you're right. Mr. Torres, matters from the clerk treasurer.
Yes, Mayor, Council. Jeff, before I put a few things on your when you're here today. The first one is the related party questionnaire for the auditors. It's the same thing as last year. If you could fill it out and just put it in an envelope and mail it back to the auditors, please. The next thing on there is, and this came to me from both the COG and the Municipal League. It's the notice of proposed rulemaking for NMDOT for the Local Government Transportation Project Fund. So I get their notice and then their proposed rule. So if you can please look that over, let us know, and get back with Carla or I. We're going to try and go to, there's 2 sessions on the 25th of November, one in Albuquerque and one in Santa Fe. So we're going to try to attend one of those just to kind of put in our input for this. And this is that road fund that the state had set up this past year. It's an additional road fund to map co-op. This one, however, where the other ones have a 25, or they pay 75%, we pay 25. This one, the state would pay 95%. Now, there's some thought out there that this should be just a rural road fund, and I'll let Carla and Ms. Salazar speak to that if you will, Mayor.
I went to a COG meeting. There is some thought that maybe local rural communities should ask for this to be a set aside for rural
Can't hear you.
communities. There is a set aside already for metropolitan road transportation organizations. There is no set aside for small rural communities. So I'm not sure if the COGs are going to take an official stance, but I know they were definitely encouraging rural communities maybe to ask for this fund to be a rural road fund set aside. It was not last year, in its first year. Everyone applied from Albuquerque to towns of less than 100 people. So just food for thought when you think about it and look at it. There is some thought that they should ask for it to be a rural community set aside.
The next thing I have, Mayor and Council, so there's a couple proposals. I also emailed them to you today. They're for the solar for the wastewater treatment plant. The proposals are actually a lot higher than the initial one that we received back when we were doing the ICIP. And this would be, both of these proposals are 100% expandable. So if you were to expand the plant or just want to continue installing more solar, these would cover, the first one covers 65% of the electric consumption at the plant, and that one is $310,000, and the other one would cover 100% of the electrical consumption, which is $455,000. So that's a bit more than we originally were thinking, and I want to just let you guys think about that. If you have any questions, please contact me so we can figure out what steps and how you want to proceed with this. Also, just keep in mind that this does impact the electric consumption only, so it still doesn't do anything about the demand charges. And those are charges that kick in when we have that high demand and we start doing the draw from the co-op. We get a charge on that, and our average billing is anywhere from $1,100 all the way up to $1,900, just depending on when we get the big slugs of the plant and when all the equipment turns on full. So look them over, let me know your thoughts. I know we didn't get them on the ICIP this year, but there might be some other avenues if it's something you still wish to pursue. Let's see, also, I guess it's talking about wastewater. One thing we did get going on the month of October, we started sending out utility billing through our Encode system, so now we'll be able to track all the payments, all the purchases, and will actually be a true utility billing system versus the previous Excel worksheet we were working off of. And then Ms. Salazar and I attended the clerks training this year again, and Randy Van Vleck had brought up one thing was the notice of possible quorum. And he suggested that we stop posting notices when you guys are attending ribbon cuttings, other things that are not specific to town business. Because he said all that does is put the liability on us, and we're not there when you guys are there doing it. He said, if you guys show up at a ribbon cutting or something like that, you guys are elected officials, you know what your job is, and you know you're not there to discuss official town business. That happens when you guys are in this setting. So his advice was for us to stop posting those notices for those types of events. You know, if we have a workshop or we have anything here official, then definitely post that forum. You know, but just if we're going to a business grand opening or we're going to the Christmas tree lighting or, you know, little things of that, you know, we don't need to be posting notices of forum for that. That was his advice.
One thing, do you want to talk about what led to that? And that is there was a small community where the mayor and all the councilors, they attended a senior citizens lunch 3 times a week. And that clerk was posting notices of quorum every time they went. They've done it for about 8 years. So she's posted 8 years worth of notices of quorums. And that finally got back to Mr. Van Vleck, and he said, that's enough.
Kind of his advice, but once again, you guys make your own rules and let us know how you would like us to proceed. I guess part of the problem is especially now since I became aware that I'm liable for it, if you guys are there at the ribbon cutting, you're going to have to be there to make sure there's no business doing this. I'm just kidding. But no, that was his advice, was just, you know, like if you guys show up at, you know, since we are a small town, you guys show up at someone's birthday party, barbecue, something like that, you guys know not to discuss town business. And, you know, we're all adults, you guys can have a conversation and it doesn't have to be about town business. And they said, if you are all, you know, 3 or more of you are together, talk very loudly so everyone knows you're not discussing town business. That's all I have.
Mayor, I do have questions for Mr. Torres.
Brief.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said make them brief.
Okay, I'll try to do that. Are we committed in any way to solar at this time?
Mayor, council, no.
Okay, so this was just something to check into. Did we already allocate budget or anything to it?
No, Mayor, council, if you recall, when we did the ICIP process, our initial quote was for, I think, like $150,000. And that would have been something we could have, you know, potentially looked into doing, but then when we actually looked into the quote even further and saw their numbers, they clearly used the wrong numbers for our electric consumption, so that system would have only covered 15% of consumption. So this is actually an accurate. These are accurate based on our current, you know, electric consumption going back. I think I gave them 2 years worth of data. They were able to compile a system based upon that. But we are not in any way tied to it. It's completely up to you if you wanted to pursue it on, you know, in a future budget adjustment. You want to put it on the ICIP. You want to scrap it to a later date. That's your decision. Just let me know either way which kind of direction you guys would like to lean towards.
Okay. And then what did you find out about our option to opt out?
So I also asked, so when I called the Secretary of State, they told me that we had to go through one election. And then when I spoke at the municipal clerk school with Mr. Van Vleck, he told us that we have to opt out through an election cycle. So that would be 2 elections. And that's what both places have told me. I'm not sure what's, according to Senator Ivy Soto in the cleanup law, I'm drawing a blank on the number, the one that was just passed with the emergency clause, that's the one supposedly in there where it states we have to set up that cycle. But that's what I've heard to the council.
Okay, so there's not an option to opt out right now, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. And then just so council knows, a question came up from the public on streets and highways from one of the audits. And I know I had mentioned to you guys.
Mr. Mayor, point of order. I think we're talking about the clerk's discussion this evening.
We are. Shall we move on?
Are you telling me that I can't make my comment? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it is matters for the clerk treasurer. What's your comment?
A member of the public brought up that one of the line items in the audit looked high and had questions, and Mr. Torres is looking into that. It relates to the capital assets, which are understated as I have warned council in the past. So I did want to find out if you had further research on that with the vehicles and the.
Mayor and Council, I'll get back to you and let you know as soon as I get back.
Thank you.
So the next item then is matters from the mayor. And I've got several things tonight. Like I said, NRCD, PD, good outfit, supported. The one item I do have on here is an update on the plan for the remaining bond proceeds from the 2014 bond sale for Horton Road. So what basically happened with that situation there, the town has about $473,000 left from that GEO bond. The reason for this unspent balance is the language on the funding ordinance was different than the language on the ballot that the voters approved. So the voters approved a specific mile of Horton between Dingle and West Venus. So we've been looking into it basically since I got here of what we could do to free that money up, try to do some more paving. And they've basically come back again and again, can't touch it. So that leaves us only a couple options. We could try to hold an election and get voters to reauthorize the funding. And this is going to cost us to run an election maybe $40,000 to $80,000. The town would pay for the special election and it would cost to educate the voters on the option. There's also an additional question of who would be able to vote in this election. And that stems from the infill annexation. So this one in 2014, the infill annexation completed in 2017. So you have to go through and cherry pick the people that voted on the thing in 2014, and the people that came in afterwards don't vote on it. So that makes a very difficult election when you're trying to sit there and pick and choose who can vote and who can't vote. And you can do all that, pay for the election, and still lose the election. So the other option that we do have is to apply it to the debt service. Doing this would reduce the debt obligation of the taxpayers for a couple of years. I believe, we ought to be good stewards of the public's money and stuff like that. And so this option, I think, makes the most sense. It saves on any election costs, reduces the debt obligation of the taxpayers, and provides a couple of years relief for them. So I wanted to just share with you guys that I think that's the direction we ought to go, is basically turn it back and ask them to put it towards the principal, pay the thing down a little bit. So I think that's the way we will head on this. Is there anything else we need on that?
Mayor, I would like to ask that this be put on a future agenda as an action item so that council can discuss and take action.
Does it need council action?
Yes, Mayor and Council, there's.
With that thing read, I didn't know.
The Finance Authority doesn't need a resolution or anything to apply it towards the debt service, but you guys are the ones who govern yourself. We don't have a specific rule as to who can and can't, so it falls to you as the governing body to make the decision.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to put that on a future agenda. I would like to have time to talk to the people of the town to see which option they would prefer. So future discussion would be good, I think.
The next thing was back here on the 23rd of October, I did go to the Santa Fe County Senior Center down here, their renovation ribbon cutting. They've done an extensive renovation down there. They've added on a dance area that's about as big as half this room here. They've switched a bunch of stuff around and it's really in pretty nice shape now. I'd encourage any of you that can get down there and take a look at it. It's a real nice facility and it's something we can be proud of here in the Edgewood area. For counselors, we did receive Larry Miller's resignation from the Lodgers Tax Board. I spoke with him here this afternoon, and basically he and his wife are looking to sell the old home down there, Dom and Mary's place, down on Dingle Road, and they're not gonna be in the lodger business anymore. He's getting up in age and stuff and just decided he'd rather retire. So that will be one off the lodger's tax board, and he is one of the ones that's required to be in the lodging industry. So we're gonna have to hunt somebody out to replace him there on that. Also, during our time off, we had another successful Celtic Fest out here. It was a great turnout. Everybody seemed to have a good time by it, and they're already planning next year's event, so kudos to all the staff and that for working on that. One other item that's coming across shortly is the Mexico Lions Diabetes Awareness Outreach Expo. And it's going to be up at the Legacy Church up here, November 16th. That'll be this next Saturday, the next Saturday, from 9 to 3 p.m. And they'd like everybody to come out. There's going to be a health fair, get tested for different things, and try to get out there and support these people. Lions Club is helping put that on, and I think it'll be a good outfit. The other thing, completed the paving on South Horton Road. They got cleanup work to do and striping remains, but basically that job's done. And so I think chalk that one up to done. I've been taking some pictures over my time in here, and I just thought I'd share them with you. It's this 20th anniversary thing we got going here. And so just take a little trip down memory lane, some of the stuff we've gotten done here. There's our animal control facility. There's the animal control, that was at the time when they were constructing it was the police department, and then Public Works behind it. Now it's the Edgewood Municipal Court. That's the municipal court. There's the old library up the top of the hill up there. There's the new First Choice, our health clinic over here. And take a look at these plaques they've got in there. We're talking about projects and stuff. This was pretty good. It's a good way of seeing everything that goes into bringing people and organizations together to get something like that. You got Santa Fe County, and you got the contractors, the town of Edgewood, different ones of us. The one I was kind of the most proud of was this one down here. Got John Bassett, Mayor, Town of Edgewood, Chuck Green, former councilor, Town of Edgewood. We worked well on that, and I look forward to more work like that to bring stuff to the community. That was a very worthwhile project. When I was down at the senior center there, got a lot of good comments from the people that are using it. And that's one I'm proud of. Of course, here's our new library, the old school here, but there's our entrance out there. There's the town hall we're in right now. There's the old town hall. There's our pavilion out here. There's our new police department over there in the old fire station. There's our public works. And of course our soccer field, which gets quite a fair amount of use. Next thing was equipment that we've gotten. There's our pickup and trailer that we haul the sludge and that out to the landfill with. There's our new water truck, motor, and dump truck and stuff, trailers. Backhoe, another dump truck and water truck. There's our backhoe hauler, trailer. There's our mower tractor. Tractor and trailer we got up there in Santa Fe this spring. New water truck. Pick up there, there's our snow blower working down there to get rid of water. Back in the day, the big thing was roads, so here's a little look at some of the road work that we've done. This was over at Church in 344 when that all fell apart. Put it back together. That was one of the early ones. It was Moriarty, Duke, and West Willard. There's Entrada del Norte. There's East Venus. There's Horton. There's Horton just prior now to the paving. There's Horton with the paving on it. Going up around that old hill there. Give somebody a nice slick ride off there this winter. There's Moriarty. That was Moriarty to Duke. There's Municipal Way out here. There's Rainbow up to the air park. There's Walker going up by Walgreens. There's West Hill Ranch. There's West Willard. That was the Moriarty Duke West Willard one. There's Williams Ranch. And there's our new lift station there on Cactus. There's the wastewater treatment plant, our windmill tower. There's the pond, windmill tower. There's our lift station there on Church. So basically what I found was you know, in our 20 years, we've done some pretty good work. And put a lot of stuff out there. Roads was one of the primary things. It was the primary thing. When I went to that first meeting with the Edgewood Town Council like 20 years ago, roads, roads, roads. And we've done a pretty good job of getting it put together and done out there. And like I say, our newest addition is South Horton Road. If you get a chance, get out there and take a drive on it and see what you think. It does still have a little cleanup work, and needs striped and stuff. They'll work on that. They had a good little run of weather here. They worked Sunday and that, and got most of it laid out, and then they finished up on Monday, and so that was a good thing. And I think that's about what I've got for matters from the mayor. Next item then is our action items. First one up is a discussion, consideration, action on the recommendation to hire Antonia Crowe as a maintenance worker for the town of Edgewood. Council, you have before the employment application from Antonia. She was one of several, we only had like 3 people put in for it. One of them we could never find for an interview or anything. And the other 2, the one guy had scheduling issues and stuff. And Antonia was the best fit for us. And also, James had a little relapse of his arm injury. And so we wanted to go ahead and get her on board. So I gave her a temporary appointment till this meeting. So I'm offering forth her name as the maintenance worker for the town of Edgewood.
Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve this action on your recommendation to hire Antonia Crowe as a maintenance worker for the town of Edgewood.
Got a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the recommendation to hire Antonia Crowe as a maintenance worker for the town of Edgewood. Antonia, you want to get up and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Antonia Crowe. I'm a wife of Ron, and like, thank you. Not very good.
She's been working diligently around at all the buildings and stuff. Got the place looking pretty good right now. And I think she'll make a good addition to James's staff there. He's very happy with her.
Yes, great. And I was going to ask if you could just, for the record and the public who may not know, the town has taken in the past nepotism very seriously, but in this case, she would not be reporting in any way to chief, and so there's layers of insulation there, I guess you could say, different chain of command that there is that separation there, because it should not cause a violation of our nepotism ordinance or any conflicts.
Agreed. So let's take a vote on it then. We'll do a roll call, starting over there. Counselor Harmon.
Aye.
Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counselor Holly.
Aye.
Thank you, Counselor.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. The next item then is discussion, consideration, action on resolution 2019-23, a resolution authorizing participation in local government transportation project fund program administered by the New Mexico Department of Transportation. Mr. Torres, you or Carl want to speak to this?
I'll do it. At the last legislative session, the legislature set up and the governor approved the local government transportation fund. It was funded by a $15 million legislative appropriation, and the municipalities were then allowed to apply for road funds. The big caveat was that if you applied for funding and received it, the money had to be spent within a year. That being said, Norton Henninger, our road department supervisor, identified 6 roads that he wanted to apply for funding for. We then submitted all 6 applications. The one that was awarded funding was the one that you are looking at in the resolution before you. It was for a single penetration chip seal at Edgewood 7 from New Mexico 333 to Appaloosa.
Council have any questions from Ms. Salazar? Not, I'll entertain a motion on this.
Where does it say that in the resolution? Sorry, I'm not seeing it just right off.
I don't have it.
Oh, down here at the very last, the Edgewood 7 pavement rehab.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve resolution 2019-23, participation in local government transportation project fund program administered by the New Mexico Department of Transportation.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 2019-23, town of Edgewood, participation in local government transportation project fund program administered by the New Mexico Department of Transportation. Start down there, Councilor Abraham.
I have a question. Do we have discussion time?
Yeah.
Okay, my question is, what were the 6 roads that were applied for?
They were all for single penetration chip seal because we thought that could be done within the year time period. And they were for Frost Road, McCall, Quail Trail, Steeplechase, Dinkle, and Edgewood 7.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Any other discussion?
Ready?
Yes.
Councilor Abraham.
Aye.
Councilor Abrams.
Aye.
Councilor Holly.
Aye.
Councilor Harmon.
Aye.
Thank you, Council. Okay, the next item then is basically a resumption of a public hearing that we had at the last meeting. We've already checked all the stuff off on the legislative procedure. I think at this point, Ms. Mortensen, you and the commission are going to give us an update on the stuff you looked at changing.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so I put these, here you're all sitting, this is changes to the changes. So the first page is the definition page, and this is what we came up with what Mr. Powers brought up about taking light industry from permissive to conditional. So we talked about it, and we're going to leave it as permissive. We're going to add a definition for industrial. We're going to add in light industry in the definition just the wording heavy traffic. So it will read, light industrial means wholesale and warehousing uses as well as those industrial uses that include fabrication, manufacturing, assembly, or processing of materials that are in refined form and that do not in their transformation create heavy traffic. Smoke, gas, odor, dust, noise, so on and so forth. That's the only thing we changed there. So with that, we took out the wording in M1 zone
For M1 light industrial, we took out light. So it'll just say M1 industrial zone.
That's back over here on
Yeah, that's further in.
page 38.
Yeah. So we think that that will alleviate any concern that commercial property owners have, but yet it still brings some protection to the citizens, and it gives us a little bit of control about if it's going to cause heavy traffic. We can actually take a look at it through our definition rather than through a conditional use in a public hearing. Any questions on that? Because that's probably the biggest change in there.
Council have any questions for Ms. Mortensen?
This will also keep us from racking up more lawyer fees, having them create the language for us. I think this is a pretty easy fix for everybody.
What's your next one?
Okay, the next one, we just made the changes that you guys asked for, adding the word administrator instead of zoning official on page 16. Oh, sorry, I can't do both of them. Somebody roll. I can't walk and chew gum. Okay, so there's that. There isn't anything until, like I said, we put in light industry back on 34. I'm sorry. Yeah, on 34. It still is listed under permissive use. We took out the language on page 35 where we talked about light industry. We crossed that out. I'm not talking too fast.
Yes.
We did the same thing in C2. Page 38, we crossed out light, so it's M1 industrial zone. We didn't make any change there. I know that the formatting is still messed up, but that's something that we're going to have to really work on, and it'll have to be Tim because I don't have the patience for it. And then on 41, I changed that language from master planned area to planned industrial zone. Wherever it says master planned zones, it's planned industrial zone, so there's no confusion. And then nothing until page 74, and this is where we fixed taking out the words town council to governing body. And then we fixed the language on E on page 75, so that reads a lot easier than, because the confusion was really bad, but we fixed that.
Yep. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and so that's all we have in the zoning ordinance. I think it's a slam dunk.
Council have any questions for Ms. Mortensen?
Just a comment, maybe you could address, I know I brought this up to you before, but if you can talk about it, it would be helpful. I guess my main concern is just that if anyone's land use rights are being changed or decreased, that we at least let them know ahead of time that they could come and speak to it or give their opinion about that change, so that this isn't just done without their knowledge.
Correct, and because we've made the changes that we made, everything's staying the same. We've only added a little bit, I mean, literally 2 words to an existing definition that at least lets us look at a use that's coming in, and if it is going to cause heavy traffic, meaning heavy semis going back and forth, it's something that we can at least address. It wouldn't be in a public hearing. The public, the neighbors wouldn't get to weigh in, which is what I originally wanted. I just think that that's just better if the neighbors get to know if a distribution center's coming next to them. But if we want to keep it permissive, I'm fine with that. But I do think we at least need to address traffic. We address noise and odor and smoke and everything else, but we don't say anything about traffic, and that's not a good idea.
It is a public hearing. Does anybody in the public have any questions for Ms. Mortensen?
Is this just for questions or comments?
make questions to her if you have comments.
I don't really have any questions, I just have comments.
Okay.
Want me to hold that for later or now?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I just want to say I'm gratified about the changes that were made. I believe that people know best how to govern themselves, and it's important not to take away rights that are permissive and make them conditional. So I'm happy to see that that's been changed. I think that it's reasonable to address traffic issues. That's one of the biggest impacts or negative impacts of this kind of development. So I'm gratified that these rights are not being taken away from the public, and I think it's important because it allows opportunity for people who live here to know with certainty what they can and can't do with property that may be used for business purposes. So it encourages our own citizens who may be young and upcoming and making the transition from wanting to go into their own business, and it allows them to have the certainty and not take an extra risk that they may buy a piece of property or take an option on the property and then not be able to do what they intended to do with it. So I appreciate the listening that was done. I appreciate being heard on this issue. I think it's important for the entire town. I do have one other comment. I know Ms. Hubbard's made comments about people in town wanting to defend their rights being somehow for their own interests, like it's a bad thing for the public to protect their interests. It's the duty of all of us to protect the rights of our own families, and that has a lot to do with property. So it's easy for someone who is not having their rights assaulted to make the others look greedy. I don't personally own any commercial property in town, by the way. This is a principal issue for me. It's an important issue. There were people that went before me that protected my rights, that allowed me to do what I've done in my own business career. And I want that to be passed on to the next generation. And that's the reason why we're protecting our rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? So, Tanya, what would you like us to do on this then? Pass it with these changes as written?
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion and we can have some discussion on it.
Mr. Mayor, I believe we need to close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion then.
Mr. Mayor, this one's near and dear, and I really want to state in my motion emphatically that I appreciate all of the work that has gone into this over a very long period of time. This is going to, I believe, help our community immensely. I make a motion to approve the changes as presented this evening to the zoning ordinance as zoning ordinance 2019-03, I believe. Repealing and replacing ordinance 2018-08.
Second.
A second. Okay, any discussion?
I just want to say thank you for making those changes that were a concern. So, thank you.
I want to
I
add
have
that
one comment if I could make it. I want to invite the public, if we take something on like this in the future that occupies 9 or 10 months, that they come to P&Z and present their concerns. I was a little surprised that the concerns aired in these hearings were never expressed in P&Z. In fact, I don't think we had a single member of the public participate in those meetings. So I want to invite people to get out in front of it instead of waiting until it's an ordinance change like this.
Okay. Anybody else? Do you want to say anything?
Well, it is, I think it's announced when the meetings are. I mean, it's noticed, so, to the public, to be able to come. So I agree.
Yeah, it would be very helpful to have the public up front when we start these, when we're looking at any ordinance. Because we kind of get surprised when it comes to council and all of a sudden it's like everything you worked for 10 months is no good. It's a lot of time we put in. I don't think people realize how much time goes into planning and zoning. Most of us have jobs, full-time jobs. You know, we go to these meetings, they're a couple hours. We go to a lot of training, we take vacation. take off to go to this training. We have to study a lot on our own time, so, you know, if we get $50 a month, I don't consider that being paid really for the time, so, I enjoy doing this, and I just want the public to know that it is really hard work.
I
Thank you
wanted
for
to thank
tonight.
P&Z because you did a hell of a job on it.
Thank you.
Over a number of months, and, as a former P&Z commissioner, I know exactly where you're at. That's the best time to go in there and discuss stuff, is when it's at your meetings.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I just have a couple comments to that too. I want to say thank you for all the hard work you do. However, I think people have the right to expect this is the governing body, and this is where their comments are heard and listened to prior to, you know, adoption. This is the place where it said, you know, this is where you need to come speak. So I know you guys work really, really hard, and I appreciate the work you do, but the public has the right to expect the final decision here.
Oh, that's true. We just like to hear, because we might could have made those changes early on.
Several months ago.
Months
We could
ago.
have addressed
Maybe we should have,
Yeah, would be helpful.
presented it
Right.
earlier.
And one thing that would help maybe is communicating that vision here first before it even starts getting work done, you know, at least in some way so that people are aware.
Agendas are published, put out there, meetings are on.
Those meetings are open to council too, come on in.
We have been in our training told not to come. Yes.
Wow.
So, I mean, you know, you guys, we pick you to do our work.
Yeah, these were all
We need to
discussion
trust
items.
you to do that.
We weren't taking any action on these, it was
Yeah, I-
95% discussion.
So we've
Thank
got
you.
a motion and a second to approve adoption of ordinance 2019-03 zoning ordinance for the town of Edgewood, repealing and replacing ordinance 2018-08. Call for the question. Start here, Councilor Abrams.
Aye.
Councilor Holly.
Aye.
Councilor Arnett.
Aye.
Councilor Abraham.
Aye.
Thank you, Council. Ordinance. Next one is public hearing. Again, we've already plowed that ground on qualified in.
So the changes in subdivision ordinance, oh, I'm sorry. Did I-
Subdivision ordinance, 2019-04, repealing and replacing ordinance 2017-02. And this, okay, go ahead on the subdivision.
So the subdivision stays exactly the same as what we brought last time. Nobody had any changes or harbored about it. Councilor Holly, I'm not sure why the language is different in here than it is in the other one. But this was also looked at by the attorneys who actually gave me the language for it. So, yeah, sure. But I don't have anything else to add on this.
This one's also a public hearing, so if anybody's got any questions or comments on this, we're gonna take them. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion on this one.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we pass ordinance 2019-04, the subdivision ordinance for the town of Edgewood, repealing and replacing ordinance 2017-02 with changes that.
Got a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve adoption of subdivision ordinance 2019-04, repealing and replacing ordinance 2017-02 with the changes that are displayed here tonight in front of us. Call for the question, so Councilor Holly, we'll go first with you.
Aye.
Councilor Arnett.
Aye.
Councilor Abraham.
Aye.
Counselor Abrams.
Aye.
Counsel?
Mayor, can I say something real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank the commissioners. They are just an amazing group of people. Mr. Lee, I don't know why you didn't come up here to this chair. But they are just so easy to work with. It doesn't matter what I bring, what harebrained idea I get, they're on board and they're right there with me. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, yes, sir. If I may take just a moment. Commissioners, thank you.
Keep up the good work. That brings us into item E, discussion, consideration, and action on moving the banking services from Wells Fargo. Counselor Armiel, you asked about this, and we had a meeting with Mr. Erickson and another woman, I think her name is not with me right at the moment. Anyway, long story short, they said, well, just too bad, hard luck, nothing we can do for you. We got this fine program you can enter into for X amount of dollars a month and stuff, and we'll try to prevent this from happening again in the future. And Juan, I'll let you take it from there.
Mr. Mayor, Council, so as the mayor said, we did have a meeting with them. One of the issues that I had brought up was, I guess I'll go back to the whole loss of that $4,000, those 2 counterfeit checks that were written. So my understanding in talking with our attorneys, the UCC, both in the state law, both say the same thing, that the theft is per occurrence. And in our conversations, they were kind of saying, well, we talked about positive pay last year, so we're blanketly covered. It's too bad, so sad. In speaking with our attorneys, if we really wanted to, we could go after them and try and get the $4,000, but I feel that would be just one of those ones where we're throwing good money after bad. It'd probably cost us a lot more to do it, to even have that fight. And one of the things that came up when we were having this discussion, I mentioned that I'd been trying to contact our representative, repeatedly, and I feel like I told him, I feel like we are not getting customer service from them. And Mary, you were there. I've never once addressed that issue. It was just kind of like, well, too bad. The conversation kind of veered away from that, and kind of going more towards what Councilor Abrams was speaking about earlier. Oh, well, there's ransomware. There's all these things you need to be aware of and protect yourself on. But never once in that conversation did they bring up, well, we're sorry for the lack of communication, for the, your apparent, feeling that you're not getting customer service. Because that letter, the initial, letter came back where they said, we've looked into the matter, tried debiting it from the account that this happened. We couldn't get it. The matter's closed. If you have any more, if you'd like more information, please contact your representative. That was back at the beginning of August. It took me until beginning of October to finally get through it. And there was just no apology, no, we'll try and work on our communication, we'll try and make this a better, yes, the $4,000, that does sting, and, it might not be a lot of money to them, that is a lot of money to us, and I feel that I think just moving the services, we take the $4,000 aside and the too bad, so sad, just that lack of, customer service, and how would you guys feel if I ignored a constituent for 2 months and just didn't respond to them? I don't think I would be sitting here if I did that. That's kind of where I've come to. I think we need to get away from Wells Fargo. Customer service just isn't there. And it's really like the mayor said, if you pay for this service, we'll prevent that in the future.
I have a question.
Watch the sales pictures, anything.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for Mr. Schwartz. Isn't there a requirement that we bank with the bank within our community?
No, it's not within our community. So the state law states we have to bank with the bank that is within our county. So since we are in 3 counties, we can essentially bank with any bank in the state because they're all within our county. There's maybe a few El Paso branches down in the southern part of the state, but we can pretty much bank with anyone based upon what the state law says. Now, we can't bank with the credit unions because, one, our local credit union's charter doesn't allow government, but also state law states that the credit union's collateralization is only up to the FDIC coverage.
Julie was telling me about that, they just can't do it. Anyway, so what are our options?
So, we have US Bank potentially we can look at in Moriarty. We have Compass Bank in Tijeras, and those are the closest options to us for taking the deposits in 24 hours. So it would add more travel time versus driving to Smiths. But at this point, I mean, I feel that's worthwhile. I did also speak with Torrance County manager. They have currently made the switch as well from Wells Fargo, and he's definitely interested in potentially, if we look towards Moriarty, maybe going in together with him for Loomis or one of those other carrier services to handle our deposits. But I would just request your permission to be able to look into switching banking services.
Council, what's your preference on this?
Mr. Mayor, I move to allow the clerk to pursue new banking services and come back to the council with options.
I'll second.
Second on that. Motion's been made and seconded to approve allowing Mr. Torres, clerk for the town, to look into what our other options are and report back what he finds as far as maybe moving our banking services. Discussion?
Mayor, I can see the pros and cons of this, and I'm glad that you guys kind of took it the extra step to follow through on all of it. It's just not quite sitting right with me, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because we did discuss last year going to positive pay, and that's an important internal control, and so we have to take responsibility for that. But then it sounds like there's not very good customer service either, right? So, I guess some of the comments that I had, for me, it just doesn't seem right to take staff time and money and gas and everything else every single day to meet the 24-hour rule for the deposits, to be driving to Tijeras or to Moriarty.
The flip side to that, and I've got sort of the same concerns, was that several of our employees live down that way, especially like James Solomon's going home. He goes right by the bank. I'm just throwing that out there, but that's one option, to do something like that. But I agree that it's a little weird. But like I said, when we met with them there, it was a sales pitch as much as anything. Like you said, what about your service here? I didn't hear back from anybody that. Sorry about that, but.
Well, Wells Fargo was under investigation a couple of years ago for all their fees, right? All their sales and programs and everything.
People do accounts without their knowledge and stuff.
Things like that.
That's where your money went.
Not sitting well, though. I wish there was another option.
Well, call for the question. Just to have Juan look into it a little bit. We started with you last time. Councilor Harville?
Nay.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Abrams? Aye. Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Thank you, Council. Mr. Torres, if you got something, let's bring it back in, report it out, see what you come up with. Next item is discussion, consideration, action on the financial report for the month of September. Mr. Torres.
Mayor Council, so the first sheet I want you to look at is the GRT distribution. So if you look at food and medical distribution, we were hit again, but this time it was 100% the food of the hold harmless. That just read 0 across the board. So I did contact Tax and Rev. The response I got back was, we're aware of it, and that issue should be corrected on your November distribution.
I've got Wells Fargo on the other line.
So, that is why we're short. You know, we did receive our new distribution, and I don't know if you recall the email I sent out earlier in October with the explanation of the rates and, you know, what they're giving us now for, I can't remember the name of the law change at offhand. So unlike what they told us at the district meeting for the municipal league, they didn't use UNMD, where they did end up using our numbers from the 2010 census. So we're only going to be getting $40,000 a year from that new distribution until the point of sale transaction. You know, they'll put the new code in. But I do foresee, like I said, 2021, once that new change goes in effect with tax and how they report and how they do. I do foresee our GRT increasing dramatically. I mean, I see UPS, FedEx, and the post office delivering packages all the time for online orders. So I think we'll definitely see an increase there. But in the meantime, at least we know we're getting $40,000 a year approximately. So,
Do we have that schedule? Do we have it in here?
I'm sorry?
Do we have that schedule on the screen somewhere or no? Oh, we don't have the whole packet up there.
I believe I can do that.
There we go.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Rachel wants that standing
Very bottom. So you can see right here the whole harmless portion, and the food was just a complete zero across the board on that distribution.
Mr. Torres, can you offer an explanation for the construction GRT total going up? I was pleased to see that. Just wondering what it is.
Yeah, council, I have no clue on that one. I think that's just what was reported on the RP 500 report.
So they're saying it'll be corrected in the next month?
Yes.
So food and medical?
So it was different than if you look at the distribution we received in July. It was different than that because at least someone still reported in July. This one was just a zero completely on that report. So it seems like their system had some sort of glitch, but yeah, literally the response I got back was, we're aware of it, it'll be fixed under November distribution. So we should see, if the trend holds, we should see anywhere from 90 to 100,000 additional on next month's.
About internal controls, I need to work on theirs.
Well, Mayor and Council, I am at least happy we're getting a response back. I mean, go back a year and every time we tried asking facts and rev, everything was confidential taxpayer information, and that was the blanket response to any question. So at least we're getting some feedback. The new government liaison, to tax and credit, that person is actually giving us a response.
Liaison?
Yes.
And thanks for catching it, Juan.
And then let's see, moving over to the council report. You know, I don't know if you do it this soon. Granted, this is for the months of September, so we did see the big purchase in there with the sandbar construction, and that was putting the double yellow striping lines down all of our roads, if you recall that. So Finkel, Frost, Edgewood 7, because they were all kind of faded pretty bad. So we had that. There's another big one, Bohannon, Houston on the first page, $15,000 for the pedestrian bridge project. And I think that was correct me if I'm wrong, Salazar, that was the last for the design. From this point forward, we should be looking into construction and construction oversight.
Yes, that was the last payment for design, and the next will be construction.
Ms. Blair, I have a question. Could we maybe have, like, some of these design projects that are going on all over the place, could we get some update, maybe have them come and just say, you know, this is what we're designing, this is what it's gonna look like, this is where it's gonna be? I mean, just an update.
On that pedestrian bridge.
The pedestrian bridge or whatever else. I mean, I see one here for Church Street. I know we've had questions about what's Church Street gonna look like. I'd kind of like to have them come tell us what it's gonna look like.
You have to get somebody from Horrocks on that one, right?
Yeah, and really quick, we can bring someone in for the bridge, but the quick update is, all the design is done, and we're waiting for the feds to obligate the construction price. And then we'll go to bid and get a contractor, and the bridge will be in place.
We gotta locate a spot to get it set up on.
They've actually already located a
They
spot.
located?
Yes.
Yeah, everybody sees it out there sitting, wonders if it's ever gonna come up over the draw. What else have you got, Mr. Torres?
Their council, I'll stand for any questions. Yeah.
There's two quick questions. I noticed there was a laptop purchase, and I didn't know if that was for here. Do we typically use laptops here in admin?
Yes, Mayor Council, that was for our IT administrator.
Okay. And then second question was, I saw expenditures for Legal Shield, and I didn't know what that was for.
Mayor Council, so this year we offered, along with our benefit package, our employees a Legal Shield. It's just one of the other ones that kind of like Aflac and stuff. So the Legal Shield is just the employees that take that deduction, and we'll send it off to them every monthly, I believe.
Okay, thanks.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the financial report for the month of September.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the financial report for the month of September. Starting down there, Councilor Arvino.
Aye.
Councilor Abraham.
Aye.
Councilor Abrams. Aye. Councilor Holly.
Aye.
Council. Next item is calendar review. Our town offices will be closed this Monday for Veterans Day on the 11th. Next regular council meeting will be the 20th. And we've got our third annual legislative breakfast. I believe that's set for the 19th in here at 8:30. Is that correct? Yeah. Councilor Abraham, you want to talk about that geo bond stuff? That,
For action on the,
yeah.
as far as to pay off the debt or.
Having it back here for discussion.
I did, yeah. I wanted to, whenever you think that's.
Okay. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
We do have the resolution here that was sitting on our.
Yeah, that was for handout. I put it on your stuff there. Mr. Abrams is going to look at it. Take it from there.
Yeah, this was just an idea, so.
I also did send you the corrected copy of the one I worked with Councilor Raymond. If you want to bring us a copy of that one next time too, we can look at both of them.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, council.
Yes.